there. Welcome. Welcome to Homekeepers. Hope you can stay with me today, friends. And before I tell you what's going to happen in the program, I just want to welcome you. We are very honored that you watch the program and pray that it will be beneficial. This is an unusual week for Homekeepers because every day this week I will be talking to Dr. Grady McMurtry on the subject of creationism as it versus evolution. If you've seen the first 2 days, I have a feeling you're absolutely hooked. And on today's program, we're going to talk about the impact of the belief in evolution and how it's really basically a religion, how it totally affects your worldview, and the fact that so many of our young people, when they go to college out of our churches, and they've had Sunday school perhaps all their life, a huge percentage drop out of church the first year at college, and they are inundated with the teaching of evolution. So I firmly believe that thus far, if you've watched these programs, they've been very, very beneficial. Dr. McMurtry is a biblical scientific creationist and apologist. And this is something greatly, greatly needed in the Christian world today. And we are offering his book, and I urge you to get this. It's not a good thing for us to be ignorant on these subjects. And he wrote this so that you could understand it if you're 7th, 8th grade. Creation, Our Worldview. The cost is $22 for the book, and the shipping and handling costs. We'll get it out to you if you use your credit card. Call 1-800-229-0059 or write to me at Homekeepers, Box 6922, Clearwater, Florida, 33758. And our vision impaired people have really asked me to give that information so that they can hear it, and we're more than glad to do that. So this is the third day now with Dr. McMurtry, and I hope that you can just grab your cup of tea, whatever, and sit down and enjoy what he has to say on this very, very vital subject. And I'm sure that you're learning, as I have, that the tentacles of these beliefs are very, very far-reaching. So enjoy and learn. Well, time flies when you're having fun. And this is the third day that I've had Dr. McMurtry with me. We're talking about creationism and evolutionism. And his background is very interesting because he's was born with a scientific mind, I would say, and taught evolution, and I would say you were sold out to it.
At one time.
And then I think the Lord just got him in a little corner, and you believed. God knew how to reach you, didn't he?
Well, yes. I talked to people about how, again, we said God uses the right bait. And with me, it was the intellect. And I tell people that because of the way in which I came to the Lord, that I came 98% intellectually and 2% emotionally. Mm-hmm. And that just represents one end of the spectrum of how people come to faith. You know, the other end is that there are those who come 98% emotionally and 2% intellectually. There's always some intellect involved because they had to make the decision to become Christian. But there's that 2% emotion, 98% intellectual on this end, me, and the 98% emotion and 2% intellectual. But most people are somewhere in between.
Mm-hmm. On the last program, I indicated I want to talk about a couple of things, and the first one being, how does this really affect our theology to try to understand how old the world is and all that involves there? How does it affect salvation, the cross, the resurrection? Does it tie in at all?
Well, throughout the Bible, from beginning to end, from Genesis to Exodus chapter 20 to John chapter 5 to Revelation chapter 14, the acceptance of creation is the foundation of Christianity, period. Now, I will never make the age of the earth and the universe a salvation issue, because you can be a Christian, you can believe in an old earth universe, you can go to heaven. I would not want to trade places with you. I would not try to be that Christian who does believe that and then try to justify it before God, but it's not the salvation issue.
Paul talks about it.
However, the acceptance of an old earth absolutely undermines the power of the cross that they proclaim to have in their lives. And yes, Paul talks about this in Romans 5 and so forth, because if you think about it, if you believe in millions and billions of years, for any reason whatsoever, I don't care. And for Christians, there are different views. There's the gap theory, the day-age theory, the framework theory, the allegory theory, and so forth. But regardless of the reason, you're attempting to compromise evolution into the Scriptures. It is not there. And so, for instance, the gap theory does it between Genesis 1:1 and 1:2.
Right.
But regardless of the reason, if you believe in millions and billions of years, you are only doing that in order to believe that life and death have been going on for millions and billions of years. There is no other justification. I mean, why believe in an earth that's millions and billions of years old if there was no life on it anyway? So you believe in millions and billions of years because you think life and death have been going on for millions and billions of years. The dinosaurs lived and died out 65 million supposed years ago, and so forth. If that is true, then death is common. There's nothing special about it. Human sin didn't cause it. But Paul tells us in Romans 5, it is because of the first sin of the first man, Adam, as a consequence of his sin that death came into the universe. And because of the second Adam, Jesus Christ, death is done away with. Now, if you believe in millions and billions of years, you believe it because supposedly life and death have been going on for millions and billions of years. Therefore, death is common. Human sin didn't cause it. And if that is true, the death of one man on a cross is meaningless.
Whoa.
It is only when you correctly understand creation occurring 6,000 years ago in 6 literal 24-hour days that because of human sin, death came into the universe, that the death of one sinless man on a cross can atone for the sins of the world. And therefore, Jesus said, if you don't believe what Moses wrote, you're not going to believe me, John chapter 5. And Christianity, the foundation is creation. In Revelation 14:6 and 7, there's an angel of God. John is witnessing this. There's an angel of God flying through the earth's atmosphere. He has the eternal gospel to preach to those who live on the surface of the earth, to every nation, tribe, tongue, and people, tying Revelation 14 back to Genesis 10 and 11. And the angel says that the entire eternal gospel is worship the Creator.
There you go.
And so from the creation account of a 6 literal 24-hour day creation 6,000 years ago in Genesis to God the Father re-emphasizing this in Exodus 20 verses 8 through 11, he says, you shall work 6 days and rest one because that's what I did, and the days are the same, 24 hours. Jesus says at the beginning, Adam and Eve were there at the beginning. He does not say they came along later. Paul talks about this in the sense that of various scriptures that he wrote. But if you believe in an old earth, you are absolutely undermining the power of the cross that you proclaim to have in your life, even though you may not realize it, maybe you've not thought it through, maybe you've not been shown the science, you've not been shown the theology. But the good science shows that the millions and billions of years happened anyway.
I'll tell you what's sad. It's the maybe majority of Christians and believers who believe some form.
Well, as I said, my experience personally is that 51% or more, I don't know whether it's 76%, I don't know what it is, but 51% or more tend to believe in theistic evolution because they were taught evolution in school, their parents, certainly their churches.
Got to find a way to make it work together.
Well, and the parents, the school, Christian schools, the Christian churches and so forth, never taught them properly, never showed them the science to prove that evolution is not true. They just simply said, the Bible says God's the creator. Well, when the school tells you there's science that proves evolution and the church says God's the creator, it is so easy to make the compromise and not think about it.
I've heard major ministers talk about it, and they believe that.
And I know that too. But think about it for a second. If you believe in an old earth, you are saying, in effect, whether you realize it or not. Now, again, I'm not accusing anybody of intentionally doing this, but whether you're intentionally or unintentionally, you are saying, if you believe in an old earth, old universe, God is not omnipotent, he's not omniscient, he's not smart enough, and he's not strong enough to make it right the first time. He's a weak God. He has to do it slowly and gradually over time, and he has to learn. You're saying that God does not always have a witness, but God says, I always have a witness. Because you'd be saying that it's a time when there were no people. you would be saying that God's a liar, because again, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit all talk about a 6,000-year-old creation. You would be saying that God cannot save a remnant, because if there was life going on, and maybe pre-humans or something like that, then he had to do away with them, for instance, as some views are, then he can't save a remnant. But God's character is he always saves a remnant. 8 on the ark, 70 in Egypt. And then, of course, number 6, you're saying that death came before human sin. And that is absolutely anathema to the Scriptures.
On the last program, too, I also mentioned that I was going to ask you, if they find Noah's Ark, will that change anybody's views in the evolution world?
Okay. Well, let's go at it straight up. Number 1, the ark has not been found, regardless of what you may have heard, read, or anything else. The ark has not been found, and it never will be.
You don't think it ever will be?
And it never will be. Now, this question, and I'll explain why I say that, but the ark will never be found. I certainly believe it existed.
But I want it to be found.
But even if it were to be found, and for instance, there was this total fraud on the internet a year and a half ago where supposedly some Chinese explorers had gone up on Ararat and they supposedly had found the ark and they took some pictures inside. It was so obviously bogus, it wasn't even worth discussing. For instance, in the photographs, they claimed to have been way above timberline and found this old wood. But if you look at the pictures carefully, there are some cobwebs. Well, there's no spider that lives at those altitudes. You know, it's totally fraud. There's another fraud about finding giant skeletons in Turkey. Well, it's a total fraud. It's a total Photoshop thing. However, even if we were to find the ark, now I say categorically we will never find the ark, but even if we were to, evolutionists would still say, oh, it's a fake, it's a fraud, somebody made it, they're just trying to fool us. And you're still going to end up with the same opinion, that it's real or it's not real based upon your religion. So it's irrelevant. But the fact of the matter is the ark will never be found. I mean, I have a chapter in my book about the Ark of Noah, its physical structure as well as its supernatural biblical typology. The Ark of Noah is a biblical typology of Jesus Christ. But the ark will never be found because the ark had 2 purposes and not 1. People need to think this through. Put yourself in the Ark of Noah with the family for a moment. And when they walk out the door, they are walking out into a world that has been catastrophically flooded. There's not a live tree anywhere on earth. They have all been uprooted, many floating out in the oceans. Those that are on the land, buried in wet mud layers, are on the surface, soaking wet, full of rot, insects, and so forth. Totally unusable. But when they come out of the ark, you've got to provide housing, stockades for the domestic animals, maybe even barns. And although eventually they will migrate south to Babel, they do not leave immediately.
They use all the wood?
So what do? You need firewood, you need housing. And you're not going to make the trip south to Babel, what became Babel, until there are trees old enough to provide resources along the way. Is that correct? Well, it's going to be 15 to 30 years. I don't know the year, but it's 15, 20, 25, 30 years before there's enough trees growing up, because everything starts from seeds. So they're going to stay there for 15, 20, 25 years. They need firewood.
They need the wood.
Population is increasing. They need more housing. The animal populations are increasing. They need more barns, more stockades. And they simply disassemble it. And if there's anything left when they leave and go south to what becomes the Tower of Babel, it will be 120 to 130 years before a human comes back that way after the judgment of God and the giving of the languages. Well, what happens to any wooden structure after 120 years left of its own?
I think it'd be dust. You mentioned your book. I want to mention it. Creation, Our Worldview. And we are offering this. Highly recommend it. If you use a credit card, it's 1-800-229-0059. Our address, if you want to just write to us, Box 6922, Clearwater, Florida 33758. And Dr. McMurtry, while I have this, can you just give us an overview of some of the chapters in it?
Well, there are 10 chapters. 5 of them deal primarily with the biblical aspects of creation. For instance, we started off with the first chapter on intellectual honesty, just how to be intellectually honest.
What age groups can understand this?
It's written as I speak. It's written for basically anybody in 6th grade up, although I can tell you that for homeschoolers, you can go down to 1st grade.
Yeah, right.
But there are 10 chapters. The other 5 chapters deal primarily with the scientific aspects. And so there's 2 chapters on the tough questions in Genesis. We have the creation verses in Psalms, the creation verses in Job. Many people misunderstand what the book of Job is all about.
In other words, you've done all the hard work.
Oh, yes. And many people misunderstand. The book of Job is not a book about suffering, it's a book about creation. Psalms, there's 8 creation psalms out of 150 that deal entirely with creation. But I have other chapters. How do people live to be 900 years old? How should we look at, for instance, good stewardship by God in a chapter where I'm dealing with the difference between Christian conservation and environmental terrorism. There's no truth to global warming or cooling, either one, being caused by humans, and I spend 40 pages just dealing with that. There's a chapter that I'm particularly fond of. It's called The 9 Proofs for Evolution, the 9 proof categories, and why they're all wrong. And I show you how to disprove them all.
So there's a total of 18, right?
Well, there's 9 categories that they use.
Okay.
And I show you how to just take apart all 9 of them and destroy evolutionary proofs. I have one on the complexity of human life, showing how complex it is, how it could not possibly come about by random chance, and how we should take a look at the value of human life. And I show how the evolutionist looks at it, and I show how the creationist looks at it. It's radically different.
You know, I was watching, I think that Vice President Biden at that point was a senator. And they were working on confirming a Supreme Court justice. He grilled him on natural selection. Like, if you believe that, which is evolution, isn't it?
Oh,
natural selection.
Remember, the terms...
Grilled him on it.
Yeah, the terms natural selection and survival of the fittest are used by evolutionists in an attempt to promote evolution, but when you really look at what they are, it proves creation. But of course, he is an evolutionist, I can tell you that.
Yeah, and to sit there and say this would be the whatever it takes for you to become a Supreme Court judge, if you possibly believe in creationism, it's like you're out the door.
Well, that's just it. He's a devout evolutionist. He's a secular Catholic, as you know, and a devout evolutionist. And for him, of course, this whole concept of evolution, the whole concept of that worldview we were talking about earlier in the week and so forth, that with that evolutionary foundation, abortion and euthanasia and we're nothing but thinking animals, he's going to promote that. And so if you think there's a God, if you think there's absolutes, because he believes in Roe v. Wade, etc., if you believe anything that would at all turn over Roe v. Wade, he's going to reject you. Well, anybody who takes a Christian worldview, much less a creationist worldview, would totally reject Roe v. Wade.
Now, he would vote against them.
Oh, absolutely.
Sure. Okay, in my lifetime, not all that long ago, DNA was discovered, and then I remember when the genome, because I was on this show and I just kind of said, I want to congratulate all you atheists out there, because it takes a whole lot more faith to believe what you believe with the discovery of the genome than what I believe. Did this rock anybody's boat in the evolution world?
Well, it did. As a matter of fact, the man who was actually in charge of the human genome stopped believing in evolution.
Is that right?
However, he didn't become a Christian and a creationist. He's still an evolutionist in his basic conceptual beliefs, but he stopped being an atheist because he realized that the genetic information could not come about by random chance. The human genome has 3 billion bits of information. Every cell in the human body, with the exception of a couple, have the equivalent of a 3 gig flash drive in each cell. And that's not all the DNA, there's some other there too, but in the nucleus, you've got a 3 gig flash drive, and the average human body has 50 trillion cells.
50 trillion?
Yes. Now, if you'll just think with me for a moment, we were so proud when we came up with the first flash drive, or pen drive, or thumb drive, whatever term you like to use, with a little drive you put in the side of the computer, right? Well, we were very proud when we came up with the first 256K flash drive, but in 6 months you could get 512, and a year later you could get a gig, and then 2, and 4, and 6, and 8, and on and on and on. Today, if you have enough money, you can buy a flash drive that's got over 200 gigs. It's pretty pricey. But today, a 16 gig flash drive you can buy for $10. Now think about it. We were so proud of our technology and development. But when God created humans, he put a 3 gig flash drive in every cell in our body, with the exception of a couple. And then think about it, he put 50 trillion flash drives in your body. Okay.
You're losing me.
And the evolutionist thinks that this could all come about by random chance, but it shows obvious design, that there's a creator God who did all this and knows more about it than we do.
So that's how they explain it.
They absolutely, because they are believing evolution by a religious view, not a scientific view. They must maintain their religion. Therefore, they believe that it did come about by random chance, even when it is patently illogical, unreasonable, irrational. It's unscientific.
There you go. So,
Remember that no one will defend anything more than their religion.
yeah.
And therefore, because they believe in evolution by religion, not science, they will defend it tooth and nail to the last man. They'll die for it, literally. And if you think about it, evolution is a religion of death. It promotes not only euthanasia and abortion, but it promotes suicide. And teaching evolution to our children is teaching a religion of death.
Well, it says one thing, we need to get good people in Washington, D.C.
Amongst other things.
basically believe in creationism.
And we need
Would help.
to, you know, I refer to myself sometimes as an ammunition bearer, and I'm just here to give ammunition to people. They're the ones that have to use it. But we need teachers who will give the ammunition. We need parents to arm
I think it's
their
going to have to be
children.
the parents.
You know, the studies have absolutely proven, and I can quote two, most recently one by Barna, 9/11/2006, because Christian young people, and it's hard enough to keep them a Christian through 12 years of a public school education. That is tough enough. Indeed, almost impossible for many. But studies have shown that Christian children lose their faith after only 1 year at a secular university because they don't have the ammunition. They
Yeah.
don't have the way to defend themselves. Today there are militant, atheistic professors, and this is at UF and FSU, and it's at Berkeley,
everywhere.
and it's at Harvard, and all these. But there are militant, atheistic professors, not just in the science classroom, but today it's in art, history, music, phys ed, and they're standing up in front of your children in the first class of their freshman year and saying, if you're a Christian, if you believe in creation, you're an idiot.
There you
And
go.
we're going to spend the next 4 years proving to you, theoretically, that evolution is true. And because they don't have the knowledge, they cannot defend themselves, they get turned to an evolutionary worldview, and we are losing 75 to 80%. I mean, if your
heartbreaking.
audience,
Yeah.
you know, especially, of course, the mothers, grandmothers, great-grandmothers, but even the men, if they happen to be watching the program, if you're at all concerned about your own children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren if you got them, you have to arm them. You have to learn this kind of material because otherwise you are going to lose them.
This would help, too.
It would help. It's a starting point.
We are out of time, but on the next program, we're going to talk about just kind of what you were leading into. What is an apologist, and are you capable even of being one? But we're out of time for right now, and you stay with me. I have a couple things to say before we have to say goodbye.
Arthelene would like you to keep the following information handy. You may contact Homekeepers by writing P.O. Box 6922, Clearwater, Florida 33758, or go to www.rippy.org. Remember, we always enjoy hearing from our viewers, and we thank you for your support.
Oh boy, hasn't this been interesting so far? Remember, there are 2 more days with Dr. McMurtry. I again want to offer you his book, and you can have this book that is certainly written with the idea for you, your children, to really be able to understand certainly the basics of everything he's been talking about. And so for that gift of at least $22, which includes the shipping and handling, and I like what it says, or more, you're certainly welcome to send more for the support of this ministry. Use a credit card by calling 1-800-229-0059 or write to me at Homekeepers, Post Office Box 6922, Clearwater, Florida 33758. It's hard for me to explain how talking to this brilliant scientist has just stimulated my own thinking. And it took me back to a song I recorded years ago when I used to sing, written by Ira Stanfill, who's a wonderful, wonderful writer. He wrote Room at the Cross, and I don't know about Tomorrow, some of those you would be familiar with. But this song so fits what Dr. McMurtry's been talking about. If I think of a rose, he's more than a flower. If I list to the storm, he is greater in power. If I think of the sky or a sunrise so rare, I'm still left without anything to compare. If I think of the earth, it's a place for his feet. If I look to the sun, he will give it its heat. If I sing of the wind as it blows everywhere, I am still left without anything to compare. And if I boast of the seas, they're just held in his hand. And the poles of the earth is a distance he spanned, and the stars only shine just because he is there. So I'm still left without anything to compare to Jesus. Wonderful Jesus. He's all the world to me. He thrills me more than I can say. He turns my night into day. This Jesus, wonderful Jesus, he's greater than earth or air. And the heavens declare his glorious majesty. But with him, there is nothing to compare. Does that incomparable Christ lead your life? Does he direct your life? Because if, as everything Dr. McMurtry has been saying, that God in the beginning did create the heavens and the earth, and it set into motion that plan that would cause the only Son of God to die in your place and in my place, it just all comes together. I can't tell you how rich this week has been to my own soul. But what about your soul? Has there been that spark that says, oh yeah, that's what's missing? That's what it is. It's the missing piece. It's the missing link in your life, friends. I urge you to turn your life over to Jesus Christ. He was there when it was created. Think about that. It's just so great. And you will find, as the writer of that great song, that absolutely with him, there's nothing to compare. Please join me next time, remembering there's no higher calling than that of a homekeeper. God bless you.
If you would like a video copy of today's Homekeepers program for just $19.95, call 1-800-229-0059 for credit card orders, or send a gift of at least $19.95 to Homekeepers, P.O. Box 6922, Clearwater, Florida 33758. Be sure to note the program number which appears on your screen.